What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good week. So I have a big video for you guys today, and it's a video that I have been putting off admittedly for a couple years. And I don't know why, because my first top 20 video till this day almost got 1 million views. But I remember spending a week on that first top 20 video, and just a couple days later, after it reached 20,000 views, I ended up getting a copyright claim from Nintendo. And even though that video got the most views on my channel, it was without a doubt the most disheartening one to make. So suffice to say, I haven't made another top 20 video since then, and that's the reasoning. But I think we're going to be safe with this one, so I can't wait to share with you guys my top 20 Steam Deck games and how to play them. Number 20 is a game that I didn't expect to like, but it looked from the first trailers to be a promising experience, even though the last iterations and countless predecessors were sort of copy and paste. And that game is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. In this game, you're playing as a 9th century Viking, and it's sort of the typical revenge story for a fellow Viking that you'd expect, but it comes with so much rich Norse mythology that it makes Phoenix Rising look like a Muppet show. And most importantly, playing this game on Steam Deck is just almost a flawless experience. I didn't really have to mess with the video settings that much. I just put it in 800p. I went to the quick access menu and put that down to 40 hertz, and the game pretty much runs flawlessly from that point. Even though it's a massive open world with scalable mountains and creatures lurking in the shadows, this game sometimes makes even the likes of Breath of the Wild look two-dimensional and dull in comparison. Sometimes. And the combat in Valhalla is probably the best combat from any Assassin's Creed game, since you can wield 2 blades or 1 blade and a shield if you wanted to. And there's still a lot of DLC to be had with Valhalla, so it's an ongoing experience, and that's why mainly it's just number 20. But that's no small feat, because there were hundreds of games that I played on the Steam Deck this year, and I picked that one to be number 20. Number 19. This game has been following me since the PlayStation 4 about 8 years ago to the Steam Deck just last year. I think I beat this game about 3 times because I can't get enough of the Nemesis system. And yes, that game is Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. I am just absolutely in love with this game and have been since it was released. Shadow of Mordor was sort of the beginning of the Batman Arkham copycats that did it right, leading up to games like Sifu, which have gotten awards. Shadow of Mordor obviously takes place in Mordor, and it's essentially an original Lord of the Rings story. You play as a ranger called Talion. And once again, this game is another revenge story. Talion is taking revenge on the orcs for killing his family. And yeah, that is kind of a big deal to make a whole journey. I guess it's pretty justifiable to take control of their minds and do all these horrible things to these orcs. I kind of feel bad sometimes because you pretty much cut off one of their heads, and I guess because they're orcs, they can come back to life. Some of them come back to life with a metal piece around their neck because of the Nemesis system. And yes, a lot of people do know why this game is amazing, but on the Steam Deck, it pretty much runs perfect, and it looks incredible. At 720p, that was sort of the resolution that the PS4 version was at, so it looks right at home on the Steam Deck's native screen. But I usually upscale it to 900p or even 1080p on my monitor, or I bring it down to 720p and try to hit those higher frames. Pretty much out of the box, you can play this game on your Steam Deck perfectly. But if you're going to put it on a dock, which I usually do with most of my Steam Deck games because I love getting immersed, turning off all the lights, having ambient sound, possibly a little surround sound, and really getting engrossed in the graphics and the story. And that's what I do with Shadows of Mordor. And it plays pretty good. It's around 40 FPS docked. You can bring it up to 60 if you're handheld. So games actually work better on the Steam Deck when you're handheld, unlike the Nintendo Switch, whereas they work worse because of the battery. Ain't that something? So yeah, if you're looking for an incredible experience, I can't recommend Shadow of Mordor Middle-earth enough. Now, number 18 is a personal favorite of mine. I've been dreaming of playing it portable since it came out when I was around 11 or 12. And that game is none other than Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. So for this game, the Steam version actually came out not too long ago. And I owned a $1,700 laptop that had an actual size 1060 inside of it, so it's a massive laptop. Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition always crashed on me. It was really disappointing and heartbreaking when I couldn't get it to work eventually. It'll always crash every time I even play Bloody Palace. And with characters like Virgil zipping around, it didn't do me any better. So when I eventually saw that Devil May Cry 4 started to get a lot of attention on the Steam Deck, and it eventually got up to the point that most people were making videos about it and showing that they beat the game, I was incredibly excited, to say the least. So as soon as I got a Steam Deck, I put Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition on it, and it plays pretty much like a dream. There are some stutters here and there, but that's only the initial startup and the first time you see something sometimes, because there are a lot of reused assets and brown textures in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. But the main attraction of Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition for me is the Bloody Palace levels. There are so many Bloody Palace levels, and you get to play them with each of the characters, and you get to go ham with most of them. So mainly because of the Bloody Palace levels, it's an awesome game to just pick up and play on the go if you're waiting for a train or if you're on a plane. It's such a completely badass experience at 60 FPS with incredible visuals and characters like Dante, Nero, Virgil, Lady, and Trish at the helm, on the go. And you can play Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition default settings, default Proton compatibility, which is Proton 7.0-6. And if on your settings you have that as the default Proton, which you should have if you haven't tinkered much, then you don't even need to check the compatibility option on Devil May Cry 4. And number 17 was a game that I used to play a lot with friends. And when it was released, finally, after so many years of waiting and collecting King of Fighter games and all other different types of fighting games, when Street Fighter V finally came out, it took the world by storm. And sure, it's kind of rough around the edges and had a number of DLC problems, but I personally loved everything about this game. I'm a huge fighting fan as well, and I literally have every single King of Fighters and every single Street Fighter game in the Steam Deck right now. I even invested in a couple fighting sticks just to play this thing, just to play Street Fighter V properly when it originally came out and now. And so having a game as huge as Street Fighter V, the graphics are amazing in my opinion. I like them better than 4's graphics, even though sometimes I like 4's graphics better than 5's. But it's just the art style and the character models that I like better. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like the character models, but the reason why it is number 17 and Street Fighter 4 isn't is because there are still some quirks with playing Street Fighter 4 Ultra on the Steam Deck. I still sometimes don't know quite how to play that game yet, which is a letdown because I remember the days where I used to have a 3DS and I played Street Fighter 4 on the go, but I can't play it on this beefy handheld. And pretty much you're getting one of the best fighting games on the go, and without a doubt the most talked about fighting game ever made, and it is marked playable, so you really don't have to check that compatibility option in the preferences. Just like Devil May Cry 4, Street Fighter V works out of the box, and that's crazy to think about because a lot of Capcom games on laptops don't work that great. In fact, Capcom has a bad reputation with Steam games and not supporting it for specific laptops, especially NVIDIA laptops. So to have a lot, if not most, Capcom Steam games working pretty much perfect on a handheld PC is kind of ridiculous to think about, and I never thought I'd see the day coming. Number 16 is pretty much close to home when it comes to the last game on the list. And that is a game that I was sort of dreading because I knew there was going to be some form of microtransactional things going on in it. And also some modes in the game are online only, which I don't like, especially when it comes to fighting games. But overall, the game has killer DLC. It has an awesome story, badass characters, and one of the best fighting games I've ever played. And that is Mortal Kombat 11. Now, playing this game on the Nintendo Switch with all of its muddy graphics, but admittedly, the Nintendo Switch did have really good frames for this game. It was pretty consistent, and I had a lot of fun playing this game with my brothers. We played it for about 11 hours straight. So Mortal Kombat 11 on the Nintendo Switch was awesome, and this game is unsupported on the Steam Deck, but I didn't check the compatibility option and it worked pretty much perfectly. I didn't mess with the settings that much. I did turn off dynamic resolution just so characters like Spawn could look even more incredible. And yes, this game is the actual version of the game, so it looks mind-blowing and it's pretty playable docked. I crank it up to about 900p and it keeps a pretty constant 60 FPS. If you do want absolutely constant 60 FPS, you could turn on the dynamic resolution option, but besides that, everything else is luxury. It's really not recommended to mess with Steam Deck settings too much, but if you want to, you could make the settings for Mortal Kombat a bit better and turn down the resolution to, say, 900p or maybe even 720p. And this game is amazing to play, works perfectly with 2 players. I've tested it out and I played this game with a couple friends. It's just wild to think about playing this game on a handheld device, especially docked, because this is a PlayStation 5 game. So seeing a game like this play so well and look so incredible docked just needed to get a recommendation from me, and it needed to be number 16. Now, I'm kind of surprised about number 15. I didn't expect to love this game so much on the go, but I've been dying to play a Call of Duty game since the Nintendo Switch released. And that's a little weird for me because I haven't even spoke about Call of Duty in so long. In fact, I haven't really played a Call of Duty since Infinite Warfare turned me off. And that game is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, the best thing about this is I actually got this game on sale for about $5, and the game is usually $60 most of the time. So the second Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 went on sale on Steam. I acted quick and I picked one, and I picked the one that wasn't apparently underrated, which is Black Ops 2. And I remember playing that game as a kid and playing it online a few times. It's an incredible game and one of the best Xbox 360 first-person shooters I've ever played, especially online. Just a blast. And it's so cool. While making this video, I'm actually looking at my Steam Deck right now, and I'm not home. Let's just say I'm at the office. But the best thing about Black Ops 2 is that it is also marked playable. Yes, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is marked playable on a handheld device, and it plays perfectly and it looks as intended. There's no bogged down graphics or optimized visuals or any kind of compensation from this handheld device, and it plays at 60 FPS. I play it at 120 FPS on a portable monitor. Even though I love the games from the previous numbers on the list more than Black Ops 2, I can't deny that Black Ops 2 is one of the best first-person shooters right now on the handheld. And once again, you do not need any compatibility options to be toggled, and it pretty much works perfect out of the box. Number 14 is a game that was talked about a lot this year, and I absolutely love it. I love old karate films like the Seven Deadly Venoms and Iron Monkey. I even watched the remastered Iron Monkey and judged the crap out of that movie. Growing up with these types of films, this game holds a soft spot in my heart for this genre of media, and of course this game is Sifu. Sifu is a gorgeous action/fighting game. You need to get the combos down. You need to remember your timing, memorize strategies, and have no fear. Sifu is a brutal action-adventure fighting game, and it's incredible. And I know it's not strictly a fighting game, excluding the camera issues. When you're in that first level and reach the hallway, it just reminded me of that movie, The Raid Redemption, and how Ranma just took out all those guys in that one hallway out of just survival instincts. So yeah, playing that type of scene in Sifu was just one of the most memorable gaming experiences. And this one is kind of tricky to play on the Steam Deck. You can go to the Discover app in desktop mode and download the Heroic Launcher, and it lets you play Epic games. But I hear that Sifu is going to come to Steam soon, and I'm assuming that it's going to be verified because I bought this game on Epic Store for a discounted price, of course, but I happened about a way to play it without the Epic Store. Let's just say that. And it plays absolutely perfect if you have these specific settings and compatibility enabled for the game. Pretty much all you have to do is go to the Discover store and download Proton Up-QT, not QT, QT, and download the Proton version, Proton GE 7-1. And the GE stands for Gigantic Egg Roll, I'm assuming, or possibly Gigantic Eggplant. I'm hoping it's egg roll. And with Proton GE 7-1, the game plays flawlessly. I play it at 1080p, or I bring the resolution down so I can go even higher with the frames, and I just fell in love with this. If you can get this game to run outside of the Epic game launcher, then you won't have to go through a third-party launcher. It automatically launch on your device. And I do recommend that you have this game directly on your SSD for optimal performance and loading times, because this game can stutter a bit, but while it's on your SSD, it'll stutter a lot less, and you'll notice. Number 13 is a game that I've been looking forward to playing for a long time, and this first-person shooter, to me, looked like an action-adventure/first-person shooter fan's wet dream. And that game is Bright Memory Infinite. And I hear that this was actually developed by a single developer, which is incredible to think about because the game looks gorgeous and it plays so well. With default settings, this verified game plays out of the box on the handheld flawlessly. If you want to play it docked, there are some ways to get around playing it at 60 FPS. Usually I just put it to 720p docked, but you can actually crank it up to 900p and just turn the settings down, and the game pretty much runs at 60 FPS. With the settings maxed, obviously it looks mind-blowing, but with the settings lowered at 60 FPS playing on a larger screen, it still looks just as impressive, if not just a tiny bit less so, but with constant frames. And the reason this game is number 13 is because I played it so many times, and it's games like this and Titanfall 2 that were so close on this list. But the only reason why Titanfall 2 is not number 13 and Bright Memory Infinite is that dreaded EA launcher that you have to go through every single time you open Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is an incredible game to show off, but Bright Memory Infinite is the best game to show off. Now, the game looks great on Nintendo Switch, but it doesn't go at 60 FPS, it goes at 30. But not only that, the visuals are downscaled, and it's kind of like you turned on the variable shader option. So some textures are muddied and the draw distance isn't as good on the Nintendo Switch. But not only that, on the Steam Deck, the screen's bigger and you could turn on the Vibrant Deck plugin to make the game look even better. But the game plays at perfect 60 FPS and is a perfect game to show off to friends if you want them to purchase a Steam Deck. I've already converted about 5 people in real life to buy a Steam Deck just by showing them this game. And I'm hoping that I'll convert a lot of you guys to buy this product by just talking to you about this game and the handheld device. Number 12 is a game that I played for countless hours on the Nintendo Switch, and it very well may be the best looking Nintendo Switch game, right next to Metroid Prime Remastered. But on the Steam Deck, this game looks and plays at a whole different tier, and that game is Dying Light 1. Dying Light 1 is so incredibly immersive to play on the Steam Deck, it's not even funny. I've had too much fun playing this game, and with the 60 FPS, the game isn't easy anymore. Enemies have 60 frames to react, 60 frames to attack, and you have 60 frames to get the F out of anywhere you're at if one of those juggernaut zombies show up. And playing this game at 60 FPS handheld is just a completely different experience, and with the graphics almost completely cranked up, the lens flare, the volumetric lighting, high quality textures, even the sound quality is just so much better on the Steam Deck. But not only that, this game is just one of the most unforgettable experiences you'll have with any first-person survival zombie game. And there are a lot of different weapons in this game, so you will have kind of a first-person shooter experience as well. But Dying Light 1 is a legendary game, and it is verified on the Steam Deck since the first day I got it, and it has been working flawlessly ever since. There are some hitches to it, like giant updates that are pretty much the size of the actual game, so I just uninstall the game, reinstall it with the update already added to it, instead of just installing a 20 gigabyte update and then applying the 20 gigabyte update for like 2 hours. If you have a big update for Dying Light, or if they ever come out with another update, because the developers for Dying Light are just completely loyal and they have been supporting the game till the very last day and the very first day of Dying Light 2. So there are a gigaton of updates for Dying Light 2, which is probably the only negative I have for this game. But besides that, it plays perfect. If you want to play it docked and at a good resolution, then I suggest putting it at 900p, turning down the shadow quality to about medium, and you're pretty much set at a locked 60 FPS with amazing graphics on a hopefully giant television, with one of the most immersive post-apocalyptic zombie open worlds you'll ever have the opportunity to explore. So number 11 is a game that's near and dear to my heart. If you know anything about me, I love survival horror games. They are what got me into video games since Resident Evil 1. But this survival horror game in particular, I'll admit at first I didn't like it for some reason, but playing this game over and over again made the replayability almost infinite. And that game is Dead Space 2. Just like the predecessor and the sequel, Dead Space 2 is verified for the Steam Deck, so you don't really need to tinker to make it work well. And I play this game at an almost locked 120 FPS on my portable monitor at 1080p, so this game can look and play perfectly. No hitches, no lies. This game plays perfect, and it looks perfect on the handheld. When you're playing it handheld, it looks ridiculous. And the battery life for most of these games that I'm mentioning is about an hour and a half, but if the battery life is a lot better than I expected, I will mention it. Dead Space 2's battery life is around 3 to 4 hours, which is incredible. At 60 FPS, 3 to 4 hours is the best experience. And Dead Space 2 is a legendary survival horror game that made a franchise. And with the Dead Space remake that's coming out, hopefully we'll get a Dead Space 2 remake so a lot of other people can experience Dead Space 2 for the first time as well. And I can't give this game enough love. It speaks for itself. It's Dead Space 2. Let's move on. Now, number 10 shouldn't be judged by its position. It should only be judged by its reputation. This, for me, was the game of the year, game of the decade. I go back to it every single week because sometimes I need self-therapy, and it is the best superhero game ever made. And that game is Batman Arkham City. Need I say more? The performance of this game is pretty much flawless. At first, when I got the Steam Deck, this game was unsupported for a while, and that sort of broke my heart, because it is the best superhero game of all time. Why would they do this? But after some time, it got that sweet playable mark on it, unlike every other Arkham game on the Steam Deck. Because every single other Arkham game, like Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum, should automatically be verified on the Steam Deck. I don't know why this game isn't verified yet, but when that sweet verified logo shows up for Arkham City, that's going to be a day. But for now, the game plays perfect. I beat it twice so far on the Steam Deck for the accumulative time of picking somebody up and doing errands, or taking the train, or on a plane. Arkham City is just an incredible experience on the Steam Deck, and it is still, till this day, a legendary game. And on the portable monitor, I can get it up to 100 FPS. All you have to do is turn down some of the graphical options, and you don't need to tick any compatibility tools in the preferences. The game pretty much plays perfect out of the box as of now. And out of most superhero games that I've played, Arkham City still holds true till this day, and it is without a doubt one of the best Steam Deck games that you can find. And it has incredible battery life. It plays for about 4 hours, 60 FPS. It's one of the best optimized games that I've played for the Steam Deck so far, and it's one of the best games ever made to boot. So if you haven't got this game, I don't know what you're doing. Go out and get Batman Arkham City. Now we're a little past the halfway point on this list, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this one, especially for the last game I just mentioned, but hear me out. Number 9 is one of those games that you will completely enjoy for the most part, and showing it to anyone will blow their brain into tiny little chunks. And that game is Batman Arkham Knight. No, I do not think Batman Arkham Knight is better than Arkham City by any means. Arkham City has some of the most legendary sequences in any video game ever, but Arkham Knight is one of the most impressive looking video games ever made. If you play both on a TV, you'll probably enjoy Arkham City more, but playing Arkham Knight on a handheld, and what I do is I put on my music player on the Steam Deck and play the Batman theme song while playing Batman Arkham Knight. And since the first day of owning the Steam Deck, that is probably one of the most memorable moments of playing my Steam Deck. Arkham Knight is rough around the edges. It has some story inconsistencies, and it sort of has a lot of fluff to it. But playing it handheld and just laughing at Nintendo Switch owners never ever gets old. It's a game that will wow you every single time you boot it up. It is absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, fantastic. I think personally sometimes it looks better than Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Steam Deck, but there are no launchers with this game. The voice acting is from the legend, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, and a constant voice acting work, the super legend, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, Joker. And I can't boast enough how awesome this game is on Steam Deck and how great it plays on the handheld. It plays at 60 FPS handheld. How in the heck does that even happen? I still can't wrap my head around how this game is able to work so well. And I cranked the graphics all the way up too. Now with the compatibility options, you do need to tick that box, and I play with Proton Experimental as my default, and it seemed to work since day one. It hasn't given me any trouble. There has been one crash, and I played the game for about 15 hours till that crash happened. And I have about 42 hours with this game on Steam Deck, and I beat this game about 2 times. But the reason why this game to me is better than Arkham City on Steam Deck is because there are so many missions in this, and there's so many side stories that are a lot smaller than Batman's main 15 to 16 hour story. You can play as Nightwing, Harley Quinn, Red Hood, you name it. And there are these awesome Batmobile levels that recreate some of the most classic scenes from, say, Batman Begins and even Batman Forever. So playing this handheld is just an absolute blast, and it is very convenient to just pick up and go. And that does make it more accessible than Arkham City in my opinion. That's why it's just one notch above it. But yes, this game is legendary status. And even though it says it's unsupported on Steam Deck, you will not regret picking it up for the Steam Deck if that's what you want. Now, number 8 is about a year in the making. I've been trying to get this game to work since day one of using the Steam Deck. Weirdly, but not weirdly enough, it is marked playable. But this is one of my most favorite guilty pleasure and just enjoyable games in general that I've ever played. I love putting music on and playing this game for countless hours, and I have done that. I have beaten the game completely without any crashes. That's very hard to believe, but this game is Prototype 1. And yes, already a lot of you are going to the comments and asking, how the heck did you get this to work? Well, the first thing you got to do is uninstall Prototype if you already have it installed, and you just have to go back into that Proton Up-Qt app and download Proton-6.5-GE-1. I'll say it again, Proton-6.5-GE-1, and reinstall Prototype 1, tick the compatibility box, and everything should be working perfectly fine. No launch option lines required. The game's controls work perfectly fine. If you do install the game first, then install that GE Proton version, your controls will not work, but that is how I got Prototype 1 to work. I was originally going to make an entire video on this, but that's all it requires. You just have to install the right Proton GE version, and the in-game settings can stay exactly the same. I played docked 1080p, handheld 720p. Game works flawlessly. That game is just incredible. The abilities you can get are just mind-blowing. And pretty much the game is about a man called Alex Mercer. He was involved in an outbreak in Manhattan, New York, and he begins to get these incredible abilities like camouflaging and becoming whoever you want to be, gliding, running on walls, super strength, Wolverine claws, 100-foot explosive tendrils that'll take out everybody around you, you name it. Alex Mercer has those abilities, and you can have all those abilities on the go. This game was one of my favorites for a very long time, and playing it handheld, finishing it on the Steam Deck was a dream come true. This game looks as intended. For the 360, I believe it was 720p, but playing it at 1080p is something new, and just having the ability to take it on the go is incredibly liberating. And just remember that Proton version, Proton-6.5-GE-1. Download that first and then download and install Prototype 1, and you will get this amazing game to work flawlessly. This game is so special. It came out a few years ago, and I haven't stopped playing it since. I haven't stopped being amazed by it since. The visuals, the gameplay, the characters, everything is legendary. That game is Devil May Cry 5. From the song Bury the Light, which I posted a music video for, to the characters like Dante, Nero, V, and Virgil will just captivate you, and you will automatically be hooked to this world and those characters from the point you start playing. I already want a Devil May Cry 6, and I just want Capcom to take their sweet time with it. I want it to be as good, if not somehow better, than Devil May Cry 5. I'm not sure how a game could even be better. The soundtrack shatters any other video game soundtrack. But not only that, this game is actually verified for the Steam Deck. I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's already legendary. And I know I say legendary a lot, but I can't get over the fact that I can play Devil May Cry 5 almost max graphics, handheld, constant 60 FPS. There are no dips, there are no stutters. It plays like it was made for the Steam Deck. That's the reason why it's so high up on the list. And yes, this list is mostly based on reputation, performance, install size, and just my personal favorite. But Devil May Cry 5 will be everybody's personal favorite. And yes, the story does have a tiny bit of fluff. I'll admit it, but every Devil May Cry has that, only to justify the incredible stylish gameplay and characters that it has in store. Devil May Cry has some of the most high-octane action I've ever seen. It makes Bayonetta look slow, especially Part 3. After playing Devil May Cry 5, I can't go back to other Devil May Cry games because this one has progressed in such a natural and incredible way that I can't help but wonder why I would ever go back to Devil May Cry 4 after playing as Virgil in Devil May Cry 5 and hearing that theme song and witnessing that masterful story. And the story of Devil May Cry 5 has been a long time coming, and I can't wait for you all to experience it. If you haven't, and this video made you want to pick this game up or any other game on the list, let me know how your first experience was on the Steam Deck. And if you need help playing the game, I'll provide some more help in the comments and as much as I can in the description. But weirdly enough, even though Devil May Cry 5 is verified, it doesn't play quite perfect out of the box. If you want to dock it, you will have to tinker a tiny bit with the compatibility options. I downloaded Proton GE 7-20, and it helps me to run the game better docked and to prevent any kind of crashes while docked. With handheld mode, about 3 months ago, there was a crashing issue. And so to mend this issue, the Linux community came up with a solution with Proton GE 7-20. So that's the reason why I still have it enabled for this game, and I'm probably never going to take it out because I'm just a little tired of Valve constantly updating their main Proton 7.0 whatever, because it sometimes causes inconsistencies with already verified games. So I like to manually download a Proton version like Proton GE and just have that version stay the same. And that's what Valve should have done. They should have just given us all the Proton versions readily available instead of just updating one, because we all know how great updates work and how amazing their reputation is. Updates can make or break a game nowadays because there are so many moving parts in it. I'm not sure how anybody can even replace one version, especially when it comes to a handheld PC. I would like to have all the versions readily available for me. I can comprehend more than one version, Valve. Thank you. But yes, Proton GE version 7-20 is the main one I'm using to prevent crashing from the new Proton versions and Valve's misconduct, and to just better the experience overall. Number 6, or should I say number 666, is nothing short of a miracle on Steam Deck. Originally playing this portable on the Nintendo Switch, graphics were muddy and the FPS was locked at a steady 30, but with the Steam Deck, Doom Eternal can run at 60 FPS. And if you have a compatible monitor and lower the graphics a little bit, you can get it to run at higher frames. I got it to run at 120, but the game looked almost as muddy as the Switch version when doing so. But Doom Eternal can run pretty much perfect on the Steam Deck at 720p portable, and it still looks amazing docked at 720p because that game is so well optimized and just looks so amazing by default. There are specific things you can do to make sure the game runs the best it can. What I found to work was going into the graphic settings in the game and disabling dynamic resolution, but instead putting the resolution to static, and then switching the FSR mode on the Steam Deck to integer. And that's about all you need to do to make Doom Eternal work and make sure it looks the best on the system. But yes, this game had a long history, and it has been talked about pretty much to death. We all know that Doom Eternal is awesome, and it is the definitive way to play it portably. I believe it works even better than some portable PCs that are over $1,000, and I believe it's mainly because of the shader cache in the Steam Deck and how it takes advantage of it. But playing this high-octane game on the go is like no other. I think I finished it about 3 times, and I'm working on the DLCs right now. And believe it or not, the only place that I played the DLCs was on the Nintendo Switch, because I wasn't going to buy the DLCs over and over again on console. But I managed to get it at a good price. But yeah, Doom Eternal, what more can I say? I personally haven't made a new opinion about this game for a long time. I've held off on saying anything since my initial videos about this particular title, and that title is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And yes, I said it. Final Fantasy VII Remake is number 5 on this list. Mainly because it's Final Fantasy VII. Everybody knows about it. And the game legitimately looks like that Advent Children movie, but on the go on Steam Deck. Playing this game handheld is extremely convenient. It's an RPG, so you can just go into any side mission, any kind of branching path that you want to. You could stop at any moment, and there are sort of segments that lead to other segments. Some segments are longer than others, so playing Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Steam Deck won't be the most convenient game, but for me, it was one of the most immersive games on the Steam Deck, and it's so impressive to show somebody. It just looks exactly how it looked on the PlayStation 5, if not sometimes better. And I never thought I would say that a handheld version of the game looks better than the original version. There are some stuttering issues because you are supposed to have this game on the SSD, which is weird because it's about 100 gigabytes. Make sure the SD card that you put Final Fantasy VII Remake into is an A2 SD card that has over 100 megabits per second, and you won't deal with too many stutters. Obviously, the stutters are not the reason why this is number 5 on the list. The main reason is the fact that the combat system and the nostalgia for games like Crisis Core on PSP, it just overpowers every other game on this list. In terms of enjoyability, you will have probably a dumb grin on your face most of the time while playing this on Steam Deck. The game plays so well. And you named it, it's verified on this system. I did add a compatibility of Proton GE-20, and I personally disabled dynamic resolution so the game could look phenomenal, but you don't exactly need those options to make the game work better. I just turned on those options to make the game look better. So the game is completely playable out of the box, and it works better now than it did the first day it came out, or day zero. I was playing it on the Steam Deck from the Epic Store launcher before it came out, because I really wanted to try the game handheld. And for that, there were a ton of different options to go on, but I recommend just getting the Steam version. It'll save a lot of gray hairs, but for the most part, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a completely epic story, and it's Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, so you will have an extra story after you finish the initial 30 to 40 hour campaign. And there are so many side missions and so many other things to do in the game that you will probably never regret getting it for the Steam Deck. Obviously, I have issues with it, and they're just personal issues. I don't like when a game has too much fluff and padding, and I feel like Final Fantasy VII Remake has a ton of padding, but luckily it doesn't have a lot of cutscenes. It's not like Kingdom Hearts level, so you will be able to get past the intro and then some on the Steam Deck's battery. But you might want to pack a power bank with you, because it is a taxing game. It is one of the best looking games on the handheld and one of the most popular games right now. With Rebirth coming up, I think Steam Deck is one of the best places to play this game, especially if you have no time, if you have kids, a job, midterms, finals, and you just want to play something memorable while doing your errands. Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably the best RPG you can play on the Steam Deck, and that's counting Final Fantasy 15. I think Final Fantasy 15 is great, but it doesn't play quite well on the Steam Deck sometimes, especially during the DLC sections, but the game does play pretty much flawless during the main story, and it is fun. But Final Fantasy 7 is the more popular game, and it's Final Fantasy 7. Why wouldn't you like Cloud Strife more than Noctis? Number 4 is one of my personal favorites. It's a game that I've spent endless hours on, and it's pretty much a bigger version of an already portable game. And this game is Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Originally, Hideo Kojima didn't really want to make Metal Gear Solid 5, but he ended it with Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. That was supposed to be Big Boss's last outing for Hideo Kojima. But then Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, and you're playing as a character called Venom Snake. Now, Venom Snake, Naked Snake, Big Boss, whatever you want to call him, he is the big boss, meaning that he has control of an entire army. You can do anything you want. You can even punch them in the face and they'll thank you for it. But mostly you can make a gigantic base called Mother Base. I'm surprised they didn't call it BFB, because this thing takes about 40 minutes to just walk through it. And you can keep expanding your base, your army, and even your soldiers. And while you do that, you can get backup on the field while you're on a mission. And all these missions are cut into sections. Even storyline missions are cut into different sections. So going into this game, playing a mission, getting out is definitively one of the most convenient ways to play a portable game. And this system is based on the Peace Walker system. And there are about 150 missions in this game, and most of them are completely epic with a great narrative to boot. And there's even a cassette tape mode, so you can hear some of the cutscenes with very descriptive sound effects and all that stuff, either on a mission, or if you just want to listen to something, you could literally sit there like Big Boss and just listen to these cassette tapes while you're on a train or a plane and get even more lore on the go. It's like the game was meant to be portable. And not only that, the game looks perfect on Steam Deck, and it plays perfect too. It's 60 FPS, and I still don't know till this day how they got it to run that great and look that amazing. And this is one of my personal favorite games that I still can't get out of my head, especially after that mind-boggling and psyche-exploding ending. And now I can experience that on the go. And sure, there are a good amount of people that would say otherwise, and they would say the game is boring, they would say this or that. But when it comes to a fine game and mechanics, having patience for the game and not constant gratification is sometimes, or if most of the time, a good thing. When it comes to a stealth game, especially a proper open world stealth game, you need a lot of patience. Heck, there's even a fast forward item in the game. so you don't have to wait all day, but you can go as far as to pinpoint certain enemy patterns. The tactical strategies that take place during this game, I can't even explain to a full extent because they're so convoluted and just divinely complex. Just like Breath of the Wild, it feels like a game that's been worked on for a long time by a director with a lot of years under his belt. And I cannot stress enough that if you do have the patience to go into this stealth open world experience, you will never regret it. You will keep going back because it is one of the greatest games I've ever played. But yes, remarkably so, it is number 4 on the list. So you're thinking to yourself, what the heck are the other 3? Well, without further ado, number 3 is my all-time favorite game, and it is quite the topic nowadays. It is a remake of a legendary survival horror game called Resident Evil 2. This is the reason why I bought a Steam Deck, to play Resident Evil 2 on the go, period. Everything else is luxury. If I just had Resident Evil 2 on the go, and that's it, I'm okay. I've beaten this game about 7 times on the handheld console already. It plays perfect at 720p. In dock mode, I either play it at 900p or 1080p with 90% resolution, and it plays at a locked 60 FPS as well. I usually put the shadow quality to medium because it doesn't really look all that different from high to medium, but the performance difference is very big, and it helps me to more smoothly traverse the RPD station, sewers, and all the rest of the locations that you explore in the game. But when it comes to Resident Evil 2 Remake, the pacing of the game is absolutely perfect, and the replayability is outstanding. It still scares the crap out of me every time I play it and try to fight one of those zombies in a creepy dark hall at the RPD station. Just seeing it consistently follow you without any stopping point, just with only hunger in its eyes while you desperately try to find some bullets to kill it with, is something to marvel. And if you love survival horror games, this is the best survival horror game, in my opinion, ever. And it is my favorite survival horror game. Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming out, and there's rumors that it's going to be verified for the Steam Deck right away. If that's true, then it's going to hold a close place as the best survival horror game, and I'm hoping that it will be. But for now, Resident Evil 2 Remake is my favorite game of all time on the Steam Deck. And for the next 2 on the list, these games have been rated number 2 and 1 for performance, battery, visuals, popularity, and just ease of access, which means you could just go into the game, play 20 minutes, and be completely happy with it. Number 2 is Marvel's Spider-Man. Now, I know I said Batman Arkham City is the best superhero game ever made, and I still believe that, but Marvel's Spider-Man is more accessible than Arkham City. With Arkham City, you need to do your detective thing. It's a smaller open world, so you can't just mindlessly fly around because you'll probably run into a wall. But playing Marvel's Spider-Man on a train, on a car, somehow doesn't get me motion sick. Unlike playing that one game on VR, Marvel Spider-Man is a delight to play from the first second you pick it up to the last tearful moments of the game. I can't tell you how many times I've doubted that the game would bring me into a better mood. And then after 10 minutes of playing it, I had this dumb grin on my face, and all of a sudden, I like the world again. Marvel Spider-Man has helped me on the Steam Deck through tough times. When I played it on the PS4, and by the way, I bought the PS4 Pro just for Spider-Man, it's genuinely made me feel like a kid again. And playing it on Steam Deck makes me feel like, I guess, an infant, because I just have this dumb grin on my face the whole time playing, just laughing at Spider-Man's hilarious jokes and worshiping the amazing graphics. I can't tell you how many screenshots I've taken in this game with all the different combinations of the 30 plus suits that Spider-Man can acquire, all the cool gadgets that he has, the variety of enemies and abilities you can obtain. Taking screenshots is like another game entirely. And if you crank the graphics up at 720p playing in a handheld, when you zoom all the way in to say the Sam Raimi suit, you can see all the tiny little fabric details. You see the shine off of the fabric. It's perfect. I love the story. I love the characters to death, no pun intended. But most of all, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. I had this cool sweater of Spider-Man when I was in elementary school, and I would get so many compliments for it because nobody else had that sweater for some reason. But they did have Spider-Man stuff when I was in elementary school. They just didn't have that particular sweater. And I just have never been more confident in liking a superhero character than Spider-Man. But yes, if you pick up Marvel Spider-Man for the Steam Deck, you will not regret it. This is an unforgettable experience, and it was verified from day one. It didn't play as well on day one opposed to month 4. The performance has gotten a lot better, but of course you need to iron out these juggernaut-like video games. And for the most part, Marvel Spider-Man plays at a steady 40 FPS. If you crank the refresh rate down to 40, it'll save you about 40 minutes of battery. That's 40 extra minutes with Spider-Man. Come on. Kind of sounds suggestive, but let's move on. And you could pretty much crank up the graphics all the way to high if you wanted to, as long as you're in 720p. I play docked, and if you want a good docked experience, you should turn on that FSR option to say quality or ultra quality. I turn it up to ultra quality because I want just the best visuals all the time, and set the FPS to 30, and you will pretty much have a perfect experience. I personally set it to 45 because for some reason it doesn't let you go to 40, or at least that's what I've experienced. And the game runs buttery smooth, looks amazing with the updated FSR option, and you have a full-fledged 19-hour Spider-Man movie that's better than most of the Spider-Man movies that came out recently, besides No Way Home. And to me personally, you can't beat that. And people are still talking about this game consistently and showing it off on the Steam Deck all the time. It is the go-to Steam Deck game. So that makes you wonder, what in the world is number 1? Well, the only thing that could be better than Spider-Man is Spider-Man. And number 1 is pretty much Marvel Spider-Man 1.5, which is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I initially thought I wouldn't like this game as much as Marvel Spider-Man, but in some ways it's actually better than Marvel Spider-Man. The gameplay is more refined. The visuals are just perfect, especially with the FSR 2.1 graphic option that you have for the Steam Deck. I couldn't believe how good the game looked and how well it played. It is the best looking game that you can get for the Steam Deck, in my opinion, but it plays so well. And the dynamic resolution is just seamless. You can't really tell the resolution goes down at all. And I just love Miles Morales as a character. I think he's also one of the best superheroes. I think his connection to the other New Yorkers is actually better than Peter Parker's connection. It feels a lot more personal to Miles in this game. So you really just get connected to his character from the second you play. And it's taking place during a snowy time in winter in Manhattan. So you get to traverse this incredible landscape of Manhattan with these jaw-dropping snow effects. And taking screenshots in this game is bar none some of the best screenshots you will ever take for any game. It is just completely gorgeous, and when you actually go into photo mode, it shows off how many details and how much care the developers put into Manhattan and Miles Morales. And I love the fact that he's rocking black and red, and a lot of the aesthetic in this game is black and red, so it goes perfectly with my black and red Steam Deck theme. And just a lot of accessories and hardware that I collect is black and red. I just love those colors. Just playing this game and the movements that Miles Morales can have, like while you're swinging, he just relax and look at his phone, and then you just suddenly go back into a swing like it was nothing. He just doesn't take much seriously, but he also shows off a lot. And I think that adds some badass flair to the Spider-Man character that we didn't have with Peter Parker. That's why I loved Spider-Man 2099 so much, because he was a show-off as well, and he's just so cool. And Miles Morales kind of has those same vibes, where he just wants to be as cool as possible. He wants to help as many people as possible, and he is attentive to his job because it is the beginning of his job. This is the beginning of a new Spider-Man, which is in a way a little more special than Marvel Spider-Man's story. So I think just witnessing this incredible story unfold, and it just feels even more quality than Marvel Spider-Man's story at some points, especially the opening sequence with Spider-Man and Rhino. That's the most epic opening sequence in an open world I've seen in any video game, and it looks perfect on the Steam Deck. I play this game at 1080p docked with no compatibility options enabled, no graphic settings tweaked. I just turned up the resolution, kept the graphics the way they are, and somehow the FSR 2.1 still works so well. With the original Marvel Spider-Man, I did have a lot of issues with crashing when it first came out, but now the crashing kind of went away. With Miles Morales, it's like they made the game with the Steam Deck in mind, but it still looks like a PS5 game. All the particle effects are still there. Everything is still there. Nothing is bogged down, and the battery life is surprisingly high. It's around 2.5 hours if you're playing with normal settings, 800p, and I have not experienced any crashing. So performance for this game is literally perfect. I beat the game around 4 times without even realizing it. The storyline is very heartfelt and memorable. Spider-Man Miles Morales is a special game, but on the Steam Deck, it is an essential game. If you don't get this game, then you must not like happiness. The action and every other element hit a perfect 10 for me. The game's a 10 out of 10 for me if I were to review it, but on the Steam Deck, it's more. It surprisingly doesn't even heat up the system that much. It checks all the right boxes, let's just say. And eventually, if Spider-Man 2 comes out for Steam, that's probably going to be better than Miles Morales, let's admit it. But for now, Spider-Man Miles Morales is the best Spider-Man game that you can get. And not only that, it is the most accessible Steam Deck game I've ever played. It's the best looking one. The soundtrack is just crazy. It's like they cranked everything up from Marvel Spider-Man to 11, and in such a short amount of time, ported this incredible game to a handheld system like Steam Deck. But yeah, that's my top 20 list. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you got some laughs, and let me know what your personal top 20 is, or top 10 if you don't want to make a list that big. But I worked really hard on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of my list. But again, if you have any questions about compatibility issues, let me know in the comments and I'll try my hardest to help you out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.